COHERE is an EU-funded research project that seeks to identify, understand and valorise European heritages in a moment where Europe is marked by the refugee crisis, Brexit, and a sense of growing Euroscepticism. Together with researchers at the University of Newcastle, CIID Research leads one of the strands of this multi-partner project, seeking to understand the potential for digital dialogue in formal and informal heritage spaces, from museums to cultural houses. In our practice-based approach at CIID Research, we bring critical learnings and questions from our academic partners into the public eye, building another series of learnings by creating prototypes, designing interventions, and conducting workshops that target different elements of the same question. The investigative fieldwork led by Areti Galani and Gabby Aragoni from Newcastle University has identified that dialogue is often intended by museum professionals as something that happens during educational or cultural activities collateral to the main exhibition. This, however, is valued as potential. Less evidence is found of dialogue actively facilitated within the museum, while the use of digital technologies to support dialogue is limited to screen-based exhibits, suggesting questions or addressing the visitors directly. The dominant approach in these cases is to use fragments of dialogue to generate empathy, simulate the experience of encountering the other, and sustain self-reflective processes amongst the audience. In discussion with our partners, and in reaction to a dearth of creative digital tools for dialogue, we embarked on a series of rapid prototypes specifically focused on answering questions such as, how might we use digital tools to stimulate dialogue on difficult topics related to heritage and identity in Europe? Could alternate forms of communication, rather than synchronous face-to-face or purely text-based methods, lead to more meaningful and open participation? As part of our research, we designed an experience that would focus on specifically capturing visitors' reflections and enable them to listen to opinions left in the same space. Furthermore, we explored the potential of asynchronous and semi-anonymous communication for discussing difficult topics. When the digital world allows us to create and track multiple identities, when governments think of their citizens as data, we imagined an experience for citizens to directly choose identities and values composing their own future. New Europe. The New Europe was a living lab with over 100 participants who explored the potential of interactive data visualization and speculative experiences to deepen our understandings of European identity, values and belonging, openly investigating this topic with the public. Here, participants were invited to collaborate and create a new fingerprint, an alternative statement about their group's collective identity and perspective on European values. Finally, our team created an immersive experience for 8 heritage experts from European museums to tackle a difficult future scenario. We created the futurescaping workshop to explore the farthest edges of heritage and the role of museums in protecting that heritage. The workshop was designed to move the group beyond their usual mindsets and limits in order to focus on the essence of European heritage. Through fictional scenario setting, diegetic prototypes and machines, we sought to suspend disbelief so that our participants could sincerely consider and speculate about possible futures that stretch beyond the visible horizon. We used speculative design and design fiction methods to create materials for this future, such as newspapers, films, and a series of physical prototypes to immerse our participants in this future scenario. Through our iterative prototyping, we became acutely aware of the challenge of designing for dialogue in space. Dialogue requires mediation, invitation, and context setting. Addressing the fieldwork learnings, we note that converting the potential for dialogue into a reality of dialogue requires a push, a pull, or possibly both. Thus, the challenge is to move beyond creating isolated opportunities for open listening and expression to bringing these elements together in a progressive and transformative process between visitors, cultural institutions, and our society. Our focus in the case of New Europe was on quiet expression through a shared digital tool, a mediator who served as both the guide for the physical journey as well as the stimulus for difficult debates around a future Europe.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we can forget some things.
But then you forget those
You
things
can
don't
remember
learn.
them and then
That's
you
the problem.
can denounce them.
Yeah, true. All the way, remember.
Lastly, in our futurescaping workshop, we expose new methods of tackling old problems, and it is clear to us that engendering alternative mindsets, whether through fictional scenarios, imagined powers or provocative roles, is crucial to a participant's engagement and reflection on sensitive topics.
Temporalities operate, especially around the kinds of erasure, not necessarily only as digital, but the kinds of erasure that happens when we as museums erase certain narratives from the constitution of Europe as a space, such as the colonial or the lives of the migrant, for other celebratory narratives that we feel more comfortable with.